Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Polina here, talking to you about the year of the Wooden Dragon, 2024. Who are we now? What to expect of this thing? And yes, it is one of the most karmic years. It is one of the most healthiest years. It is the one that the Chinese astrologists suggest is the luckiest year in the 12-year sequence. So this is the luckiest sign of the Chinese zodiac. And yes, of course, we do have a lot happening in the world of Western astrology during this particular year that is going to help us grow, help us with our finances, help us with our thinking patterns, help us get strong and tough and caring and real and human, emotional, maybe peaceful, maybe masterful, mature. So it's a very, very big timeline. It's also going to spread throughout the next 3 or 4 years, maybe up to 5 years, as to who you are and what you are really doing here. So this is a very meaningful sequence that starts with this year. There is a lot of real stuff that is happening in people's lives, real gifts and legacies, and to some degree the question of what is it that you are doing with your life? What is it that you're doing with your time? How you're spending it? What is it that you really enjoy? And who you are truly. So it's a very, very hard time for some people to decide also as to how to spend their life, as to how to spend their time, because there's lots of commitments and there's a lot of peacekeeping still left over from the rabbit year 2023. So what I mean is a lot of people are still trying to work within stereotypes and archetypes. People are trying to be peaceful with their family and friends. They're trying to make sure that they fit a role. And there is a lot of very orchestrated behavior and very peacekeeping behavior that is still going on in so many lives, but we can't handle it anymore. So this is where the aggressive side of dragon comes out. And yes, there could be wars and conflicts. There could be a lot of emotionality, a lot of demise, a lot of power hunger, and a lot of negativity also. In the year such as this, if you are not real or you're not feeling authentic as to who you are, and if you don't feel that your reality matches your internal strategies. So the best idea basically is to keep humble and peaceful, even in a time of need, even in a time of fire, even if you feel that you want to really tell it like it is, even if you want to, for example, cause a catharsis or call the cops or speak to the authorities or do something very unwise potentially later in time. But this is where every man is for himself, as they say. Nobody's gonna really keep you together as they would have done for the last maybe 6 years. So for the last few years, people try to keep together. They try to sort of keep in touch, see what everybody else is doing, make sure that nobody spins out, making sure that things are relatively controlled and there is no controversy in the air. And now these ideas are of, so in terms of global political structures, maybe there are going to be less organizations and people interested in what different political parties do. So people no longer care about individual results. So that means it's kind of hard to talk about. There could be war crime committed during this year. There could be a lot of crazy philosophies coming out of people. The reason why somebody does something is going to be wild. So cherish that which you've got. It is not good to police other people. It's not good to ask for another person in a very, very intense year such as this to fund you. It's not good to ask somebody else for help. It's a really, really bad time to ask for a helping hand. It is a horrible year for people that do not feel that they can risk being who they are and they are reliant on another person's opinion or another person's power or another force to support them or supply them anything. So here it's going to really get to you if you are reliant, if you're dependent on something or somebody else to provide you something. So this is about fierce independence. And yeah, there are some interdependent, interconnected energies, but they're trying to help each other grow on their own individual levels. This is where you do it yourself and then you bring it to class. I mean, perfect. This is not where you are sitting next to the teacher asking them to provide you everything. This is where you have to do your own research, and in a way you have to gallop away and be ahead of the pack. So we are preparing for the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, great. There's going to be snake year 2025 and horse year 26. So galloping away, meaning if you really want to work on your character, on your strength, on your mentality, on your mastery, on your independent thought and thinking patterns, if you really want to get ahead, you got to do yourself a favor and study and do your own research. Don't trust anything or anybody out there to keep you in check. Also, in terms of having mentors or psychics or any kind of teachers or gurus, it is the best way to avoid danger later, to do your own stuff, to have your own critical patterns switched on, to be in your own lane. And then eventually, as the story ends, as we come to a very particularly emotional, demanding, and dangerous cycle, by the end of horse, there will be monkey. There will be goat, monkey, and rooster. When we come into that cycle, this is very dangerous territory. It could be very tipsy-turvy. So I'm trying to present to you, I suppose, a longer way of looking into the future past this year. And what we can expect to happen now in Dragon is this call for independence, and yes, sometimes a call for arms. So if you're wondering what is happening in the political situation, how it's going to unfold, yes, there is probably a crisis already happening in the world and is going to expand. But in terms of what people think is right, or what people, in a sense, enjoy or condone, or think is healthy, is going to be, wow, is going to be very, very intense and sometimes belittling to other people. It's going to be very, very hard to commence um, certain lives, to commence certain, I suppose, choice-making patterns based on this grand picture. And people are asking, is this fair? Are you for real? Is this what the world is? And the answer is yes, it is. Because a dragon, you see the real face of a person. You see a true reminder of who they are. You understand exactly what they're capable of. So when it comes to certain political members or certain countries making some very rock hard and unbelievable decisions, and also this will of course mirror throughout the world on an individual, independent level, people making sense of life the way that they would do it. And it can sometimes blow a mind. It's like, really? Is this what you're really into? Is this how you really think that the world works? Is this what you think is fair? So the idea basically is to get out of people's ways, not to conceptualize on the topic of what do we get to do in the end? How do we match? Matching people is very hard during this time because everything is so individualistic, so independent, and so rich in itself. So the best quality during this time is the alpha quality. It is the alpha energy. This is a very big year for also remorse if you haven't been able to step into that fast lane, if you haven't been able to be more alpha yourself. And yes, this year could also make or break. And a lot of people are really speaking to me in terms of what they could have, would have, should have been, and what they could have done when they were kids or when they were youngins. And that is not correct. So you cannot undo the past. You cannot change your last few years of evolution. If you have been killing time, if you have been doing nothing, if you haven't really come to this fruiting, which is what we're seeing for a lot of us during such a year, December would have already shown in 2023 who everybody kind of is. As the Sagittarian energy usually does like to show the full face, to show all the colors of the presence of the person, being the Sage, ninth house of the zodiac. We don't really have any time. You see, you don't have any time to do that inward thinking. You don't have any time here to do any secretive processing, to do things behind the scenes, unless you're meant for it. So I would probably suggest let your freak flag fly. And to be absolutely okay with the fact that you are yourself. Now, this is the worst thing also that can happen this time. People are afraid of themselves. They're afraid and they're very critical. So this comes back to, I suppose, the territories that we all remember holding as a child or being a part of as a child. You remember maybe hear your parents your wounding, you know, where you were in the pecking order at school, if you were a geek, if you were like a computer nerd and nobody liked you, or if you had everything and everybody and suddenly you plummeted or lost your popularity in college. All these little insignificances and foolish games that I suppose children play, young people play when it comes to the popularity contest, who's the jock, who's the nerd in the situation, that all happens here. So, like the whole idea of being belittled by other people, unable to speak your mind, unable to do your thing, not being able to contend or compete, that starts to get to you here. And the idea basically is to get out of it. So, all of these thinking patterns like, somebody did me wrong, I was, for example, yeah, abandoned or abused or treated badly at a certain age of my life. And I'm so sorry if this is a karmic topic to take on right now during the course of this reading. It's just not great to come back to these things this year. So sometimes there is a year where you can solve it. Rabbit year 2023 was a wonderful, high-flying year for secrets. It was amazing to talk to a therapist. It was amazing to sit at home for seriously like 3 weeks, cleansing your body, trying to work things out. 2023 was a thick, also strong year for internal processes and the night of the soul. Now, in terms of 2024, you don't get that. So to put this into context, 2024, Dragon Year, 2012, the year 2000, 1988, you know, also, so you see you have very kind of character building years here. I mean, if you can remember 1988, I'm not sure, but you probably do remember 2000, possibly. I definitely do. I was 15 in 2000. And 2012, what did you do in 2012? Maybe you had a lot more than usual. Maybe you wanted to emit a certain energy or do something really freakishly amazing or outstanding. So in terms of this, let's touch on this. The epic nature of 2024, what is this about? So it's about epicness. It's about epic feats. But here is where sometimes people go wrong. And why they go wrong is because they try to reiterate their past. They try to undo the damage done. And sometimes it still works. It works for some people. But to be the scapegoat or to be the underdog is very hard. To be the opposite of what other people are doing. To be, like, for example, the homewrecker, you know, to be the person that is a misguided person. To be a vagabond is not very easy for some people unless you're quite happy with that being part of your daily life for many years to come and sometimes even decades. So it's like taking a picture. This is how it's like click. It's like taking a picture. This whole year and its power is such that you can be remembered for the rest of your life. So that means photographs. Okay, don't let somebody take a picture if you know that they're going to do a bad job. So in terms of marketing, managing, you've got to be very careful with this. Yes, it is about not necessarily putting your best foot forward. It's about being authentically you, but also about making yourself trust and believe in your image and in your special flavor, but also try not to overgive or overdo. So for example, sure, let's go down that shallow route. People that are used to filters, people that are used to wearing a whole pancake full of makeup on their face, that's not a very good thing here. But you know, people are not fooled anymore. So why the rabbit here allowed it is because rabbit was about structure and it was about beauty and it was about good results, and I didn't really care if it was unbalanced in a way. Rabbit wanted peace and it wanted security and it wanted perfection no matter what. Genuine people are the ones that are going to be on the surface in a dragon year, and no matter how much you try and how much you want to imitate other people, it's just not going to happen because that feeling of security doesn't fill the room. And how can you make yourself look more secure? How can you dress more secure? How can you be more secure? And the thing is, you can't. Also because people have very short attention span and very short temper during a dragon year. They don't care. And sometimes people don't care about each other. So for example, that magnetic energy of social media may not actually be viable. So I'm seeing people teaching themselves not to be addicted or curious with those people that are not authentic, or those strands of consciousness, or that kind of media that just has nothing to do with them. So if it doesn't have anything to do with you, you might not care for it. So, and you can't make yourself. And I do understand that it's still about the click. And rabbit cheer has probably left you feeling like, wow, you got to be very nice to people, and you got to make sure that you fit. And maybe, yes, a lot of rabbit cheer 23 was definitely about fitting. 2024 is not going to be about fitting. It is going to be like, okay, look, I don't know why my eyes are closing. I'm bored. I'm going to go. That's an absolutely normal scheme. And the idea basically is to be fine when we are working within alpha frequencies. You have to be there and really be there, really be interested. Take the moment, drink up the moment, take what matters to you, feel it, and then basically, yeah, that's it. You go. So this is very, very alpha. It's either on or it's off, and it doesn't have to be anything in between. But unfortunately, I do definitely see how with not just social media, but just like social conditioning, people are trying so hard. It's like, well, if I talk to this person, they will respect me, or they will give me some kind of guidance. Well, I guess I should fit into this group. All of this small time stuff, fitting in, trying hard to make friends, making friends also on the wrong level. For example, trying to fit with a community that makes absolutely no sense is the most demeaning part, is the saddest part of Dragon. So if you could imagine, you have wealth and joy. Dragon suggests that there is greatness to a person they have already claimed or gained themselves. And it's not about innovation as much as it's just about the joy of life itself. And then eventually, like, yeah, sure, like people that kind of scope out the territory, sometimes it makes sense to be a little bit kinder and a little bit meeker, not to be full frontal in your face constantly. It's better to be a little bit shy if you don't want to participate in a certain story. So that's quite a big thing also. If you're understanding that you don't really care about it, it does make sense to you, it just doesn't make sense to you, you need to leave, or you need to unhook these hooks that you have yourself implanted. So that means that, for example, you thought you would one day be like this person, so you have to speak to them with uttermost care and love, even though you are completely bored of them. You need to unhook your mental states that are keeping you in these small positions and these small ideas or small places in the world that make you submissive. So being submissive in an alpha year is incredibly hard. So in terms of poverty and popularity and all of these concepts, poverty of spirit, poverty of joy, not having enough frequency, having nobody by your side, having nothing to say, feeling random, feeling without a root system is probably the worst choice of behavior, and sometimes we choose it. So let's talk a little bit about our lives before this particular year and how they formed us later on as adults. So the main kind of concept that I'm feeling happening or unraveling for most people is, look, I don't care what it takes. I'm just going to do this. That's great. So there's definitely a lucky feeling. Well, I identify as this, or I identify as that. And that identity goes forward with you. But let's try to understand. Some people are lucky because everything fell into its place originally by design. Some other people are not so lucky. So, for example, having certain disabilities, having certain behavioral issues, having mental illness, having a disability, or being debilitated for some reason has been a strong, harsh, and maybe very karmic question mark for many people in the world. And then that makes them sometimes, for example, a person believes, well, I got ADHD, or I've got autism. Well, I guess I got a personality disorder, or I have incredible introversion or shyness. And then that starts to dictate who they are, where they show up. And no matter what you do, how many books you write, how many pieces of music you know how to play, how many, I don't know, marathons you've run, how much you have created, or how successful you become. It doesn't matter if you have a setting, if you have a nervous system hijack, and you have designed yourself to be the underdog, or if you have idealized yourself as somebody who's unsupported and who's nervous around people that will not get their way, that will not win. If you trust that you will not win, that is going to try and create a certain type of, I suppose, transmission And that is going to be a part of your identity and identifying system of friends. So this is the worst case scenario. So in terms of this particular year and here and now, it's very, very hard, very karmic to understand that we have all made some part of ourselves not who we are. And then we had to try so hard, maybe for the last few years, to join the dots and try to keep it all together. And yeah, those parts come out, and of course, in full bloom. So, for example, yeah, the geek, the intellectual, the introvert, the sad person, the black sheep, all of those small part identities have been probably there for a long while for some people, and they have to somehow get evolved. And it is crazy. People don't care. They take one look at you and they know, and they don't need to have any more. So sometimes, people make a safety, like they make a safe space within their heart, and they go, well, if you get to know me, you'll see that I'm a great person. It's just that sometimes, well, I feel very inadequate, or I feel very bored, or I feel very sad, or I think what I say is not important. So all of these struggling feelings, being, the only child, or being the middle child, being safe here but not safe there, having no safety, of course, for example, being a divorcee or a widow, or having no children, or having a very difficult life, or working in a very hard industry. That's going to take you places. It is going to be your label. And that, of course, should not have ever been. So, how to undo those high school years? How to undo that nervous behavior when you know that it is the time? It is the time to shine. This is the most alpha year of them all. Why do we do this to ourselves? And also, why do we not notice that we do it maybe even to our children, or that our children are having a hard time at school or with ourselves? Where does bullying start? Let's go there. The bullying starts at home, not necessarily as a bullying mechanism, but sometimes as a person is not prepared for the external world. They get taught by their parents to have a certain type of self-esteem, and yeah, it's kind of yucky, but in a sense, the parent is the first bully that a child has. So what makes children susceptible to receiving certain experiences? Also, why do children go around doing crazy stuff like, spray painting walls, or smoking, or getting up to no good? It's not necessarily the parent itself, but themselves, but it is kind of like the psychology of the home eventually transferring to daily life. And I'm not like necessarily teaching you here anything about that, because I do not have children of my own and do not plan to. But in a sense, quite a lot of people are, in a sense, stamped or developed by their early childhood psychology that is presented by the family members in the house mostly, or even a daycare system or a nanny that they keep on regularly employing. So in terms of this, like, okay, how to undo, 40 years of karma, how to undo 60 years of karma, how to implant new ideas, how to feel safe, healthy, good, creative, caring, funny, how to feel good about yourself is a big question mark during this particular time. So I would probably suggest try to look to the positive, try to be optimistic, try to get other people to notice the best in you, and don't be afraid if there is another part that comes in and says, look, I'm just not lucky, I'm just not lucky, I'm just not meaningful, I'm just not nobody, I'm nobody here. We can't afford to do that any longer. So it is about the make or break, and in a sense, it is definitely about the more powerful and associative people. And even if you think, because of these very neutralizing cultures that are popular in the West today, it's like, oh, everybody's kind of the same, and everybody has the same rights and philosophies, and all these neutralizing cultures that make the underdog the hero. Like, please trust this. There is only one way. So I'm going to try to explain this to you, and maybe not everybody agrees, but okay, there's only one way. So like nature has simple guides. There is light and dark. There is fire, air, water, and earth. So they are simple ingredients. Salt is salt. Salt is not sugar. Salt will make your food salty, not sweet. So in the same way, there is geometry, there are simple facts. How much hours of sleep do you really need? It's practical decisions, and also, for example, who makes the team and who doesn't make the team. This is not necessarily about competing and being cruel or violent, but sometimes it ends up like this. And this is because people don't get it. Sure, I should get the same chance as everybody else. I don't want to do anything with my life, but my opinion matters. Like these kinds of things. And this has been like a very long term build up of philosophy, especially coming from the United States. I'm not pointing any fingers necessarily, but like everybody's worthy. It's like, sure, I can't do this job very well. Um, but I deserve to have this job. Why? Because I just do. It's my human right. It's like, yeah, but you're not good at it. You can't provide the service. It's like, yes, I can. Why? Because I want to and because I can. And that's how also the schooling system works. It's like, yes, you can. You can be whatever you want to be. Like I identify as a penguin. I identify as a giraffe, and you cannot tell me that I am not a giraffe. So I'm not trying to necessarily bully people here. I'm just trying to also respect you while I'm trying to, yeah, basically underline some kind of social psychologies and these natural sort of nervous systems that are building, and the global confusion with what it really is, what it really takes to be oneself. And we do have a lot of dysphoria. We also have a lot of garbage out there that tells us to be dysphoric, and that also champions distance. For example, oh, I'm so ill, but you can't tell me what to do. Like, I have a lot of problems, and I choose, and I enjoy being who I am. So, like, there is a lot of illness and sickness, and also guidance to accept one's self as an ill person or a diminished person, or a person that, well, has to take antibiotics or some kind of pills, or has to constantly try to heal themselves or each other, like a person that's constantly in and out of rehab, or a person that's constantly on antidepressants. We can't have that. We can't do it this time around. You can't do it. So it's just alpha. You got to be strong. You got to be able to support your own weight. You got to be able to carry what you are doing well. And this is basically the psychology of this year. This is the quantum of this design. You got to be able to do it well and effortlessly. So that means it's not just about training up for the competition and in the last minute handing in that assignment. It's not about last minute. It's not about putting that extra effort and putting in no effort. It's just about it being normal. It's about making things graceful and more conscious. For example, if you're a dancer, or if you are a violinist, or if you, I don't know, if you're a teacher, where, when you have it, because time stands still because you know it. It's like when you're playing a piece of music and you know it back to front. It's just obvious. You don't have to push on the pedal. You don't have to squeeze it out of you. You don't have to stress out about it. It just works. It works. And that is because it is healthy, it is whole, it is absolute, and it is clean. It's the alpha state. It is the perfect way. And the better way to understand this year is to realize all what you have already and organize your life according to your strengths, and also realize your weaknesses, because part of being an alpha state is also having weaknesses, having blind spots, and not being able to understand things sometimes. So we all have that. Sometimes even some of the toughest people, the greatest sports people, the best of the best, the creme de la creme, have a blind spot, have a weakness. Their Achilles heel, as they say, and that is absolutely fine. So basically, how you work with this is your business. Every person has their own way of doing it. But because of this Achilles heel, yes, you don't maybe get to do some things, but please recognize sometimes there is a distribution of talents, a distribution of power or energy that is not to your liking, but it works in the greater scheme of things. So for example, fame is one of those things. To be famous seems like a great strength and power, and it's probably the quantic alpha state, to have everything and to be externalized and in front of people. But then also maybe there's a lot of things you don't need or you don't want. Maybe it is hard to have a relationship. Maybe you don't care about having your own family, or you don't really necessarily want to balance other people the way that they would want to balance you and such. So it's about killing time sometimes and just waiting for things to settle and lose their edge. And I'm sure if you, for example, play sport, or if you're a comedian and you are naturally known to be in alpha state always, you might just need a break sometimes, and just the break itself fixes everything. So what else? What else can I suppose, help you with here? The whole concept of this year is about no longer being in a place where you don't want to be. It's not risking your life for things that don't matter. It's not about carrying weight that you cannot handle. It's not about you being somebody that you are not yet. If you've never, for example, performed in front of people, there's no worth or point saying, I'm now going to be a famous comedian, because you cannot, because you have never tried, you know. Or for example, you've been raised a certain way and you are saying now, I'm going to do the complete opposite of what I've been doing in my life. That's a weird choice. I've had some people come in for readings in the end of 2023 with these concepts that are completely far-fetched and high-flying, have nothing to do with their day-to-day life. Doing things that are completely crazy, unless you know you're breaking free and it is within your reach. But you see, like, here I could not really be the person to solve it, because sometimes people have to learn through their own pain or through their own mistakes, and I definitely get it, you know, and that's absolutely okay. The best way to treat this year is that you have been cooking up something already. You have already lived your life to a degree, and here it is, the big reveal of who you are, who you've come to be after all these years, like some 30, 40, 50, 60 years of bringing it, you know. So as a presence, you know, maybe even as a mother or a father, or as a chef, as a computer systems engineer, I don't know, as a fashion designer, you have it now. And the point basically is to base everything on your strength and not to care so much about the competition or about how other people feel. And yeah, also in terms of love and making friends, people now see each other for what they have bloomed to become. And it's not necessary now to speak or to hide or to butter people up. It's not about buttering people up and smoothing them and trying to make them like you. That's not going to eventually do anything. That's the worst thing. It's the most wasteful way. And yeah, it's just not about wasting time. You can't really afford to waste time in a year like this, because everything is so epic and is so photographic. And then eventually, yeah, we do see the joy and the kindness of all things coming together, all people coming together. Um, but sometimes it's not about the artist, it's about their artwork. It's not necessarily about you. People here are not as tied or as glamorous to each other or as sexy about each other as they've been probably for the past few years. It's not so much about glamour or image, though it can be. It's more just about the truth. What is your truth? And that's that basically. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like, please have a look, buy my book for the year. I have it all written out there, all the aspects, all that Western astrology stuff. It's in the book. It is in the book. It's in the book, links below. And yes, you can visit my website and get a booking with me, get a reading with me. I've been doing them for some 8 years now, so feel free to do that if you like. And yes, you can always purchase a portrait, buy some of my art or something like that. I will be posting stuff in the caption section below if you'd like. And yes, join my Patreon so you get more holistic insight for every single month. And yes, I do really enjoy being on YouTube too. So thank you so much. Enjoy, and I hope to see you next time. And also, if you like, check out all the 12 videos, of course, for each sign. Yeah. And what else? What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, yes. Sometimes there's ads in my videos. I didn't put them there. YouTube put them there, so I have no control over the ads, and I don't monetize my channel, so I have no idea how this happened. But it is a little karma for my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. I hope it hasn't been too annoying, and I'll see you next time.